The warrior's greatest strength lies not in the sword he wields, nor in the battles he wins. It is in his ability to remain still, even in the face of storm and chaos. Imagine a world where silence is not an absence, but a force. Where fear, once a roaring beast, becomes a whisper fading into the background. This is the path of the true warrior. One who stands with the quiet strength of the earth beneath him, unmoved by the winds of doubt and distraction. To find this power, we must first face the very things we fear most: the noise within, the ego that pulls us in every direction, and the deep, unsettling silence that remains after the distractions fade. This ancient practice of stillness is not a retreat from the world, but a way to walk through it with presence, discipline, and mastery. It is a practice that transforms the warrior into a force of nature, guided by the ancient Tao. If this lesson echoes in your heart, stay and walk the path with us. The young warrior stood at the edge of the village, his chest heaving with the weight of his ambition. The night was still, but within him, a storm raged. He had spent his life chasing after approval, after victories that would define him. His sword had cut through countless battles, and yet each one left him feeling emptier than the last. The more he conquered, the less he understood his own soul. That evening, as the air grew colder and the moon bathed the earth in a silver glow, he sat by the fire with the elder warrior. The old man, a figure of calm and wisdom, spoke of a great master from the past, a man who had nothing but his silence. The young warrior, perplexed, asked, "How could silence defeat the world's chaos? How could stillness overcome what is constantly in motion?" The elder's eyes gleamed with the quiet certainty of someone who had lived through storms and emerged unshaken. "True mastery," he said, "is not in the power to act, but the wisdom to remain, to stand firm like a mountain amidst the winds of the world, untouched by the noise that seeks to claim us." The young warrior felt a pang of confusion, but something within him stirred. Could it really be this simple? Could he truly find power in silence? The young warrior spent the days that followed in silence, seeking to understand what the elder had meant. His sword remained at his side, unused. He wandered the forest, the rustle of the leaves filling his ears, but his mind remained turbulent, racing from thought to thought, from doubt to fear. One evening, standing before a still pond, he watched his reflection. The water, clear and undisturbed, mirrored his every movement. Yet beneath the surface, the ripples were endless, a reminder of how his own inner chaos disturbed the peace around him. In that moment, he understood. The noise of his mind was the enemy, not the world around him. He had spent his life fighting external battles, but the true war was within. The elder's words echoed in his mind. True power is in our ability to be present, to remain still amidst the storm. And so, the young warrior began the first step of his journey, to quiet his mind, to still the storm within, and to learn what true strength was in the silence. Confronting the ego, the warrior's journey had just begun, and the silence would soon reveal the most dangerous enemy of all, the one he had carried inside him all along. The young warrior's journey had taken him deeper into silence, but as he walked the path of stillness, his greatest enemy revealed itself: the ego. It whispered in his ear, demanding recognition, urging him to seek victories, to push harder, to be admired by others. With every step, his internal conflict grew. The desire for power clashed with the wisdom of stillness. The ego, like a shadow, followed him everywhere. He could no longer ignore it. One day, the elder warrior took him to a calm pond, its surface smooth like glass. "Look," the elder said, gesturing to the reflection of the young warrior. "What do you see?" The young warrior looked, but the reflection was not the man he hoped to see. It was a figure burdened by pride, fear, and doubt. A man who could not even face his own truth. "How can I conquer the world?" the young warrior asked. If I cannot even conquer myself?" The elder smiled faintly. "The world you seek to conquer begins here," he said, pointing to the chest. "The battle is not with others, but with what lies within." The young warrior spent the days that followed struggling with the elder's challenge. The ego was not something that could be defeated by force or a single act of will. It whispered to him in moments of quiet, urging him to measure his worth against others, to prove his value in every action. Yet, each time he sought validation from the outside world, the emptiness inside him grew. The elder guided him to observe his thoughts without attachment, a task that seemed impossible at first. When pride arose, he watched it. When fear crept in, he allowed it to pass through him. Slowly, with each passing day, the young warrior began to understand. His true nature was not defined by the praise of others, nor by the weight of his own desires. It was the quiet stillness that remained after the ego faded away. One evening, as he gazed into the pond once more, the reflection that met him was not the image of a man torn by inner battles, but a figure at peace, centered and whole. The ego, once a heavy burden, now seemed distant, like a shadow that had no power over him. The path of the warrior. The ego had been conquered, but the young warrior soon learned that true mastery came not from defeating the inner noise, but from learning to walk through the world with presence and purpose. The days turned into weeks as the young warrior continued his training. He had learned to quiet his mind, to silence the ego, but now the real test began. The world around him was relentless, a constant hum of noise, chaos, and distraction. The clashing of swords, the clamor of the marketplace, the demands of those who sought his attention, all of it pulled at him, urging him to react, to move, to fight. But the elder warrior, ever patient, told him, "The path of the true warrior is not in the battle, but in how you move through it." He instructed the young warrior to observe every action, every thought, as though they were waves on the ocean. There, yet not to be fought. The warrior must learn to stand firm like a mountain, while the world rushes past like a river. It is not a retreat from the world, but a mastery within it. The young warrior took his first steps into this new way of being. Each motion was deliberate, each decision precise. It was as though he moved through life not with force, but with the quiet assurance of the earth beneath his feet. The winds of distraction could howl all they wanted, but he would not be moved. As the young warrior continued his practice, he began to feel the stillness take root inside him. It was not an absence, but a presence that guided every step. The chaos of the world, the noise, the distractions, the constant pressure, no longer held power over him. He began to see that true strength lay not in reacting to the world, but in choosing how to respond to it. One day, the elder took him to the marketplace, where the rush of people and the clamor of voices threatened to overwhelm him. "Walk through this crowd without letting it disturb you," the elder instructed. The young warrior hesitated. How could he remain unmoved in such a place, where every step felt like a struggle against the tide? Yet, as he moved through the crowd, he focused not on the people pushing past him or the sounds that filled the air, but on his breath, on the stillness within. And with each step, he felt more grounded, more centered. The chaos no longer seemed like a force to be reckoned with, but a natural part of life's flow. The warrior had learned to remain still within the storm, but soon, the next challenge would reveal itself. Not the world outside, but the fear within. Could he remain unmoved even in the face of his deepest fears? The young warrior stood at the edge of a vast cliff, the wind howling around him like a wild beast. Below, the jagged rocks seemed to mock him with their cold, unyielding presence. He had faced countless battles, but this was different. Fear crept into his chest, cold and relentless, gnawing at his resolve. "Jump," the elder warrior said, his voice calm, as though asking for nothing more than a simple task. "What do you fear?" The young warrior's heart raced. His mind screamed for caution. The ground below seemed miles away. The fear of failure, of death, of judgment, all of it surged within him. His limbs trembled, and for a moment, he was paralyzed by the weight of his own doubt. How could he jump, knowing the danger that lay below? Fear, the elder spoke softly, is not the enemy. It is the mind's attachment to the future, to outcomes. It is the shadow cast by the ego, afraid to lose control. The young warrior hesitated. The wind howled louder, and the young warrior's mind spun with possibilities. What if he fell? What if he failed? What if this moment, this leap, was his last? Yet, the elder's voice remained steady, grounding him in the present. Fear is a phantom, the elder said. It exists only in the mind, fed by what may or may not happen. To fear is to attach yourself to a future that has yet to come. The young warrior closed his eyes and took a deep breath. For the first time, he allowed himself to feel the fear without running from it. He stood, not fighting the trembling in his limbs, but embracing it. His breath slowed, and the world around him became still. The noise of his doubt faded into silence. Then, with a steady heart, he stepped forward, surrendering to the moment. His body moved, and as he jumped, the fear dissolved, leaving only the exhilaration of presence. He landed, not with the crash of failure, but with the quiet certainty that fear was no longer his master. Transition out of Chapter 5, Mastery of Self. The young warrior had learned to face his fears, but soon he would face the greatest challenge of all, mastering the self, not through force, but through the discipline of the spirit. The young warrior stood on the edge of the battlefield, facing his final test. His opponent, a fierce and skilled warrior, towered before him, faster, stronger, and relentless. The ground beneath them seemed to hum with anticipation as the crowd roared in excitement. Yet, for the first time in his life, the young warrior felt no fear. His heart did not race, his breath did not quicken. In the past, he would have rushed in with all the force he could muster, fueled by pride, anger, and the need to prove himself. But now, something had shifted. The stillness that had become his foundation was not a retreat, but a force. He had learned that the true battle was not fought with the body, but with the self. His opponent's first strike came fast and vicious, but the young warrior moved not with haste, but with clarity. He deflected the blow effortlessly, not with strength, but with precision. A single, fluid motion that flowed like water around the stone. The crowd fell silent, the tension in the air thick with uncertainty. The battle raged on, but the young warrior remained calm, unmoved by the chaos unfolding around him. His strikes were not fueled by emotion, but by purpose. Each move was deliberate, each step calculated. The clash of swords rang out, but to him, it was as if time itself had slowed. His opponent, once fierce and certain, now seemed desperate, his attacks growing wilder, driven by frustration and anger. But the young warrior had transcended those very impulses. He was no longer fighting the man before him, but the distractions that once governed his own mind. With every strike, he felt the ego, the need to dominate, to control, slip further away. It was not through power that he would win, but through his mastery over the self. Finally, with a swift motion, the young warrior disarmed his opponent, bringing the battle to an end. The crowd erupted in astonishment, but the warrior stood still, his heart untouched by the noise around him. He had won, not through physical strength, but through mastery of the self. The warrior had learned that true power was found in stillness. But now, he faced a new question. What came next on this path of silence and strength? What is the true nature of the journey that lies beyond the battle?